all those, we actually selected about 50 students to go through the process.
So 50% selection.
Yeah, so 50% selection. 50% selection is.
And also the FFE Scholars from Mysore are included.
Yeah, or any FFE Scholars that already existed in Mysore would also be part of this coaching program. So for anybody who was existing already, and yeah. So and the goal is really that to see, well, what can we do here with students who are really coming from rural backgrounds? Is it possible? Right now, in terms of a cost, what is really the cost of doing this? This is about FFE. We have given a budget of about 15,000 rupees per student, and this is to actually and we're working with JSS, which is also subsidizing this to some extent. So therefore, with this combination, we're going to see. And the goal is really, can we make does year-round coaching and can it improve outcomes? That's one of the goals to see. Can we make this model repeatable? That is, if we can clearly understand what the costs are, and can we go and share this with other partners? I mean, all those of course depends upon. But I think the way we are thinking is, if we can make this somewhat successful, then we can kind of distill the model and say reuse that with other pieces. We definitely see that the need is very great. I mean, I think that it is that from the rural schools, I think the access to material, I think the difference is becoming greater as time goes by. I mean, I think 30, 40 years ago, you could have somebody from a rural school where the education was good enough that they could compete with the students coming from the city areas. And I think as time is going by, I think it is getting harder. I think not easier. The difference is somehow getting more. So therefore, we're just seeing if this can be one of the unique differentiators, and what is the way that we can get rural students and try to improve the outcomes.
For so Vivek, it's intuitively likely that the city students do much better than rural for that reason. Yeah. But do we have some validation of what that data looks like at all, or is it something that we go on based on the obviousness of that being because of access to resources?
So I don't know whether
We had a facilitator before.
So I think that maybe that's we actually had another one of the FFE board activities was we had a meeting. I think
at the Ramakrishna students' home.
At the Ramakrishna students' home. Are you going to talk about it?
Yes.
Okay, so therefore you will explain a little.
Yeah, from where how we figure
how various kinds of students from different parts how they performed. Now we don't have any hard data about that, but I think it's probably should be possible to get hard data on performance of urban versus rural students, whether it makes a difference. But my general feeling is that most of the people who are doing well, even if they are not urban in a big city, they are at least in a medium-sized city, and that's starting to, versus something smaller than that, and that divide is certainly there and exists. So I don't know, Rishi and Kajoli were definitely there with. Maybe they can comment anything else on.
We have been trying to do some analysis on how the scores and the aptitude tests correlate with that instruction. So we are actually working on that. We should have it done maybe in about a week or so.
Yeah, the thing that we noticed at the interview, of course, I don't have any data on what happens to urban students from urban areas. But what we saw in the interviews there, the brief conversation that we were trying to conduct, I think there's this whole language skill, communication skill issue that we sort of noticed. So for instance, if you are administering these questions, this aptitude test in English, is it that they're not able to answer a question because the language may be a little complicated, or they don't completely comprehend the question because of the language? If it was the same thing was in Kannada, would they do it better? It's kind of it's not clear. I mean, I've been looking for some trends.
I think language is a big issue. Actually, the students themselves tend to say no, it's not a big issue, but it is interesting that.
At the focus group, actually, one of the things we specifically asked was, do you think you need English language coaching? And most students said no, except for those who moved from the Kannada medium in 10th to +2 there is no Kannada medium. You're forced to learn English. So maybe perhaps those students needed, but the rest felt like they don't need English coaching, but they did say we need the ability to communicate properly, and we lack that confidence. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But for rural versus urban, that's a clear differentiator. I think English language, ability to communicate is.
One thing we did see though, I mean, we set the standard of the aptitude test at the level of SAT, which generally if you look at India, sort of American comparisons, Indian education tends to be slightly higher in fact at the school level than US, and we set the level of questions at SAT math level. We were a little surprised by the performance of students on that test. The scores were actually quite low, and the only students who got really high scores were people who were from the Navodaya Vidyalayas, which are a fully government sponsored kind of program. I'm not even sure why exactly they were there, but at least those students who were there from the Navodaya Vidyalayas, 4 or 5 of them, they are the ones who scored the best on this test. Most of the students who came from the other genuinely rural schools, which are not, I mean, they scored, typically 20, 30, 40 on that test out of 100, which was, and that, I mean, of course, I guess sometimes but I don't think the test was all that hard.
No,
right?
actually the interesting thing, Rishi, whatever I have done, I've done about 85% of the analysis. Yeah. It looks like I was trying to see if there was a single question which had not been answered by anybody. Okay. There's no such question. Every question has at least a few correct responses. So I think out of those 40 or how many 67? 40. Yeah, 67 students took that exam, right? So the highest scoring question has some 53 so far, and I think I still have about 10 to go. So, and that was a question which was a simple algebraic question. X equal to this and y equal to that. And I had this sort of formula for x plus y cube, but I had written it out fully. See, it doesn't matter. You don't know finally whether somebody answered the question by just doing x plus y cube or whether they actually solved the entire equation. But that's one question that almost everybody got right. But something that they did not get right, or very few people got right, was something to do with melting a sphere into a cylinder or one of those things, which then does become, sort of complicated. It's not a direct kind of question. So, but that may be again to do with this whole, do they really understand what melting, it's the kind of question that somebody in urban areas who knows some English would do. I think quite easily.
English is one thing, and access to teachers, access to qualified teachers is probably another issue between urban and rural.
Sometimes people seem to know things because there is a teacher who teaches them something. So we met, there were a whole bunch of these students we were talking to, whom we were interviewing. They all knew something about plant biology, and then it turned out that there was this teacher who taught them, all these things about flowers and stems and various parts of the plant. So they all came and said, we like biology, is our favorite subject. We want to do engineering. and so maybe there is one teacher who is sort of inspiring.
And maybe that points to another initiative to probably pursue is teachers, quality of teachers. How do we
standardize
in the rural area?
Perhaps we should move on to the sort of short on time.
Page maybe or
page.
Yeah. So while this is something that has already started rolling, this is something that's still cooking. We're still brainstorming about what do we do in the urban areas. So one thing we did was we conducted a focus group at Sri Ramakrishna Home, where we invited 11th, 12th professional degree courses and those who have completed degree courses, students from across all of these, and facilitators. A lot of them were FFE scholars, but there were also some from Sri Ramakrishna Home. And we split them into these respective groups, and we had a questionnaire that we went through to ask them about their experience. And so what we learned, some key insights that I noted down here, was that they unanimously felt that the 12th class coaching is extremely critical to their success in the competitive exams. Even those who have got very good grades in the 10th standard, those who have graduated, those who are in plus 2, plus 1, plus 2, they all felt that is critical. Without it, we feel ill-prepared to take on these exams like IEEE and CET. The other was, Rishi alluded to this, when they go from 10th to the PU level, a lot of them said it's like a culture shock. In the 10th standard, we are used to multiple choice questions. In 11th and 12th, it's essay type questions, which is slightly different. And we are required to be a lot more self-reliant, because in 10th, teachers treat you like little babies. They take care of a lot of things. They watch, they monitor. 11th and 12th is sort of on your own. Teachers are not that involved. And the subjects are a little harder and deeper. So they say that when we go from 10th to 11th, it's like going from having a smooth journey on a river to kind of rough waters. So they are not well prepared. So what ends up happening is these 2 years, 11th and 12th, turn out to be extremely critical to the future of their career. And the way things are today, I think FFE's involvement is largely financial and less hand-holding, mentoring, guiding, guiding them through this difficult phase. Another thing they said was, we don't network among each other. I mean, I need help sometimes. I don't know who to go to. I have to wait to ask my teacher in class. By then, that one difficulty adds more difficulties along the way, because if I don't understand one concept, I can't proceed and understand other stuff. So I kind of get blocked. So they're looking
networking amongst people who have already become FFE scholars or before they become FFE?
So if they would like to be connected with senior students who they can call up and ask, or they can get some coaching wherever they have some difficulty. And we realize there is absolutely no networking of any sort among the students. So it would be good to build that if possible. And finally,
so in general in India there is no network of that sort, is what you're saying?
I believe so, but specifically, no, the urban students, the FFE scholars, they don't talk to each other. They don't talk to each other. And finally, they all said that, this is a very difficult time for us. It's stressful. We have huge expectations, a lot of pressure. And if we don't get very high marks, we end up at a very poor college, or we don't have a college. So they're very stressed out. So they said, we need, career counseling, guidance, time management, stress management, this kind of guidance as well. Besides, coaching in physics, chemistry, math, and biology. These are the 4 PCMB subjects. And motivational coaching. And I've been talking to one gentleman here who runs an outfit called Buoyancy. He coaches anywhere from students to corporate executives. I've heard him speak. He's a brilliant motivator. So we've been talking to see how we can eat. And not surprisingly, he already runs a program for these students, which is a 10-month-long program. And so we have invited him. He's going to be at the 4 o'clock session, and maybe he can say more about it. And the other track, of course, is coaching in 12th standard. Because a lot of them felt that coaching in 11th standard is not really necessary. We can do without it. But 12th is definitely needed, and it's critical. So if we can provide them these 2 packages through this, the 11th and 12th, I think it would really enhance significantly their chances of making it out of this successfully. And the way to structure it, this is one possible structure that I've thought of. Do the motivational personality development coaching, which is 10 months long, in the 11th standard, so that by the time they get to 12th, the stressful year, the tough year, they're more confident, they're better prepared. And then in 12th, we provide the extra coaching, the subject coaching. Now, there are a lot of providers in cities. There are some who have a national footprint. So if we work, there are some pros and cons to working with them. I mean, they may charge more, but then because it's a national footprint, we can use scale to bring down what they can offer, the cost that they can offer us. Or we can tell the students, you go and find what you know to be the best. So just rely on local intelligence and decentralize the whole process. There's 2 ways to go about it. In terms of costs, today we have a 6,000 a year scholarship for 11th and 12th. These